Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be talking about Don't Get Blood in My House by Matthew King. You know, having read the book, the name now feels a bit misleading because the whole point is to get blood in the house. I would have guessed it being something completely different based on that title. Maybe like some survivorship going on, also from the description, but we'll get into all of that here in just a little bit. This book was mentioned in the comments of one of my other videos by the author as being their first novel that recently was released, and they were hoping that more people would read it. And so I said that I would pick it up and discuss it. So we're here discussing this book. It definitely reads like somebody's first novel that may not have gotten the critique that it needed to get it to the next level. I mean, it reads like a first work to me. Kind of reminds me a little bit of what I did before getting critique. Though it's a little more chaotic than what I did in some ways. But we each go through our journey a little bit differently. I will say, though, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not trying to be mean or anything. This is just definitely an early novel. I could see exactly some places that I would have recommended some attention be given to it, but it does feel like a labor of love for the author. And like they very much cherish their characters. So at least there is that. But before we get into the discussion of this book, there are a couple of things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Leigh, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first video of the month, we bask in your creativity. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover, that chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. There is also now Crit This, where you may submit stuff if you would like my feedback on it, and it can be unpublished. So if you would just like your book or your story that you're working on to be discussed and to receive some kind of feedback, I don't promise to be an end-all be-all of anything, but I can tell you what I see, and maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't help, but all feedback is yours to determine what you're going to do with. And then another option is I have a reader submission form on my Linktree that if you would like me to read any specific books, including your own, submit it there. And when I'm looking for books, that's kind of where I go. Though obviously I do look at my comments section that's like, hey, I published a book, would you read it? And I do pick them up. So what I do try to do on this channel, and for better or for worse, is to give new authors or indie authors a chance at just like being read, being discovered. And I can't promise that I'll enjoy anybody's book. I can't promise that I will give raving reviews, but I will tell you what I saw, why I saw it, and at the very least discuss the contents of the book or how the story came out to me. And hopefully we discover some new authors or new writers or at least new stories together. And I also kind of just do whatever I feel like reading. So I do have an indie book coming up after this as well that was actually submitted to the Fresh Meat feature, and I read the first chapter, and I've been wanting to read more of it since I read it on the Fresh Meat feature, and so that one is also coming. But this channel specifically, hopefully, is just about discovering new stories. And the roulette that is. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books. And my newest novel, The Legend of Bill Cassidy, book 1, is definitely trucking along. I'm so excited. It's getting there. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share the story as it goes. I'm so excited to get to editing. I'm almost done with revision, and editing is going to like just bring it to it's going to help clear up so much of what is a struggle in the the revision and writing phases. I love every phase of writing for different reasons. It does different things, but I'm so excited to get to editing. And that'll be what I'm doing with the rest of this year, is just going through editing passes to get it ready for first readers, and just, oh my gosh. And also inserting some things that I don't need a full revision for in order to insert them, because I just was like, oh, I need to do this. I need to have this in the scene. And sometimes making those minor edits, often making those minor edits, is so much easier when you're doing editing versus revision, where you need to do like major edits, because now you're messing around with a lot less content. Anyway, I'm digressing fairly bad. Anyway, let's get into this book. The link is in the description below if you would like to check it out for yourself. And it should also be noted, because you can't really see it with my graphics, but the art and the novel are by the writer Their Twitter account is full of art that they also do. So we're going to read the first page so you can get a vibe for the writing style. Quote, "You're invited to dinner with 3 other killers. A black letter stamped with a bird's foot, white. Arrive at Black Manor on New Year's night. A late 20s witch named Custard, the White Witch, steps her bite-sized self onto the moon-beveled early 2000s road outside of Blackwood's Kansas diner. Custard smashes her lacy white witch hat into the stale back seat of Cotton Ben's only taxi. She wipes straight black hair from her bright blue eyes and a dying chef's blood off her new chef's knife. A faded sticker reads, 'Your driver's Dusty,' a 30-something dad-looking guy with a taxi-driving side gig, yellow trucker hat matching his jankyard cab. His sunny bleached hair slicks to his neck and his scruff smells like sunburn. He looks like a nice guy, weighted with the exhaustion of an older man. He drank a little too much at New Year's party, a hard worker trying to put his responsibilities away for the night, but he couldn't remember who gave him his hat. It reads, 'Blackout with your rack out. Appropriate party apparel.' Of all the passengers hiding something, Custard was Dusty's worst, missing her knife as he rear-view peeked her white button-up in the fingerprinted mirror. Custard slides the knife's cold blade between the holy seat and her unholy ass cheek of waist-high business pants. Dusty, a little intoxicated, even more now by Custard's black lipstick, extended in 4 directions across her face like an upside-down cross. Custard's uninterested face meets Dusty's confused reflection as she adjusts her small necktie from choking her anymore tonight. Dusty's never seen a woman like her in Kansas. He never seen a woman like her, period. Greeting her with a New Year's beer's breath. "A little late for Halloween. Must have been a hell of a party tonight, huh?" Dusty takes his jacket off, revealing work-built arms squeezing out of a white shirt. Custard manages to cross her legs nice-like, owning the cramped backseat. "I already partied tonight. Now I have business." Dusty jokes. "Costume contest?" Custard sucks her lip. "You've poked fun at me twice now. Is it all out of your system?" Dusty already forgot. "Wait, when was the first one?" Custard holds her breath. "Your joke about Halloween clothes. Please stop bullying me." So Custard is picked up by this cab on New Year's Eve to be taken to this house in the middle of nowhere. She spends the first portion of the cab ride bickering with the driver because she doesn't like him, partially because he's a man and partially because he's mocked how she looks for her witch outfit and upside-down cross across her face. Frankly, I think if you dress in an atypical way, you should kind of expect comments, but also she's got an ego, so she would respond to this. She gets him to pull over to the side of the road where she steals his keys and taunts him up to the point of stabbing him while he is outside. Dusty wakes up, tied in the back of his own car with Custard driving. His stabbing was an illusion, and there was a tornado warning in the area going on. With Custard noticing that he is awake, she says that she's found all of the things that he's tied up with in his trunk, so now they both know a little bit something about each other. Now, we're never going to get any real answers on what that means, like why he has basically a murder kit or a rape kit in his trunk, because he's theoretically just a family guy that he eventually does go back to his family. And I say family guy because he's got like a wife and a child, and that doesn't mean that he can't be a serial killer, but the worst thing that's revealed about him is that he cheats on his wife or his baby mama. I don't know if they're even married, but it doesn't explain where those things came from or why those things are there, and it really doesn't matter. This is going to be something that we continuously see throughout this book, where things are placed seeming more for the aesthetic than actually for story-related reasons, and we've already seen that for previous parts of the story. Her illusions are not going to come into this anymore, not going to be used for any of this anymore. They get to Black Manor and she locks him in the car to approach it while he is fighting to get himself the knife in the front seat and somehow out of his casing. Now, I don't know why she left him behind, because he was brought here on purpose, and I think it's for the look of it, you know, the fright of it, to leave him there, and then also so he can see somebody else approaching. But based on the goal of this or the reason why they are gathering, it doesn't make any sense for him to be left inside of that car, especially with a knife. I mean, obviously, Custard kind of plays with people, especially is playing with this guy, but it doesn't make any sense for her to do this when he is necessary inside of the house for the goal of the house. We're going to learn that the 3 people that were invited to the murder house were asked to bring a sacrifice, or 4 people? 4 people invited to the murder house were asked to bring somebody to kill there. So it doesn't make any sense that she would leave him behind because she needs to drag him inside. As Dusty is inside of the car trying to get the knife, there is this other girl, this blonde girl, she looks like a model, walking her dog in the tornado warning weather, it seems. He tries to get her attention. Despite the situation he's in, he's actually pretty chill about everything going on. There's not much of a reaction. He's not really that panicked. He's kind of just working on it. I mean, he's making comments about the dog going to the bathroom while he's basically tied up by some chick who had just stabbed him. He's like, that dog is taking a shit, but I am in the shit. Am I right? He tries hitting the horn on the wheel to get her attention as she comes over, but the doors won't open because an invisible demon is holding them and talking to some other guy about eating someone's brains. And these demons don't show up again. Another element that I'm just like, I don't understand what this is. And we're also getting flipping perspective. So this isn't a third person close. So you're going to get observations and jokes and inner dialogue that is from different characters, but it's just head hopping depending on who has the joke at the time or who can be snotty. And this is what I meant by it reminds me of what I did before I started getting critiqued. Like, there are parts of this that make me think of the writing that I did for Dead End Drive back when I was first drafting it, and the perspective that my mentor brought me, which was you're sacrificing character for joke, and that weakens the story. And that's what this constantly does, is it sacrifices the sanctity of the characters, the specificness of the characters in order to make snide jokes. And it's constantly both bickering and just being plain out mean. All of the characters just being plain out mean, the observations being plain out mean. And there are places for that specifically, for sure. But when it's constantly switching between characters in the narrative and it all has the same voice and it's all doing that same thing, it gets not only stale very quickly, but all of the characters sound exactly the same. All the characters lose their identity when you do this. So this just feels like a writer who traded in character specificity, character personality in order to make the caustic jokes, and that ended up watering down all of the characters. So while they may look super, super different on the cover here, they're all basically the same character with the same voice, the same jokes, and they bicker in the same exact ways. But we're going to get through this a little bit, and if you read the story you can see it more because I don't have crazy number of quotes in here because it's when they're bickering, because it's just doing this number, but you'll see a little bit more. The girl that had the dog runs off and she's being chased by some guy with a Roman helmet, and the bottom half of his face is showing underneath the Roman helmet and it is burned. The guy also has a chainsaw. Dusty is so confused by why he is there and who all of these weirdos are. Also, it's so much happening at once. You got this girl who's walking her dog casually being chased by this guy with a chainsaw while he is inside of a car during a tornado warning in Kansas while the wind is actually picking up. So, you're kind of in a little bit of danger. Why this woman is just casually walking her dog during a tornado warning? She is being chased by this guy, by the way. Chainsaw Cop greets Dusty and asks him, Chainsaw Cop is the guy with the chainsaw, obviously, greets Dusty and asks him if he's here for dinner. He's talking to him through the window, but he doesn't stick around to talk to Dusty, and he goes up to the manor chasing the girl still. I don't know why she ran up to the manor. That doesn't seem like a good idea, but the Chainsaw Cop drags the girl inside of the house and everything goes silent. Custard eventually comes back out with Chainsaw Cop and the two of them start bickering. Chainsaw Cop drags Dusty out of the car and he knocks his chin as he pulls him out. See, I don't know why they needed to wait for Chainsaw Cop in order to get the guy inside the house, since obviously Custard had beat the crap out of this guy and then pulled him into the cab all by herself. She has magic, so I don't know why she waited for Chainsaw Cop to bring the guy in. This also kind of gives an idea that they might know each other, and we're going to go along with the story and not really understand if these characters have a relationship, if they know of each other before this house happened, or if they're strangers. We're not going to have any idea of any of that going forward into this when there are multiple people sitting around. And are they all from Kansas? Obviously Dusty lives in Kansas, but did all of these people just come from across the country, across the world. Like, how did they get pulled together? We're not going to get any character information really about any of these people or how they relate to one another. And they're not going to show how they relate to one another or what they know about one another either. Dusty is taken inside of the manor, and the girl who had been outside with the dog is in a silent cage. And the silent cage is just a magic cage that makes sure no sound gets in or out. And it makes it so her cries are not escaping. The dog is still running around the house. I don't know why the bad guys spared the dog, and let alone not only spared the dog, but are letting the dog run wild around the house, but here we are. Dusty is tossed into the cage with a girl that we now know is named Kylie. We also learn that Chainsaw Cop's name is Dexter, which Dusty promptly mocks because that's such a silly name for some sort of bad guy. I don't know. Dexter goes to two places for me specifically. Dexter's laboratory, where you've got, little baby boy genius who is also fairly brutal, even if he's a baby. And then Dexter, the serial killer and guy that does blood analysis for the cops. So Dexter's not really a funny name, but Dusty is obviously kind of a good old boy type. What this also does is it proves that there is no fear in this situation at all. So you would think that being kidnapped and being dragged in and being tied up, you would be afraid because you've also got this weirdo guy here with a chainsaw and a burned up face that you can't see. And then this weirdo chick with the cross over her face who you thought stabbed you. And you're basically kidnapped by these people. And so he's mocking the situation, and maybe he would deal with a situation of fear with mockery. But when you have characters who do not respect the fear of a situation, like Zero, you can have some that's in their character to like push against it because that's how they deal with stress. But when you have a situation like this, and none of the characters show fear or show any response that is natural for this situation, it sucks the weight of that situation out. And it's the same issue that I have with stories where somebody says, this is a super strong, almighty, they're super brutal. They punish people. They kill people with ease. You should be scared of them. You should respect them. And then a lot of cases with those stories is the main character will come in and then be snooty and disrespectful to the all-powerful, and then the all-powerful will just laugh and say, I like you for that. And it totally undermines the power structure, the power hierarchy, and it shows you that there is no stake, that there is no reason to fear anything because nothing in this matters. And so that's what this does when you've got Dusty, who is just this random working guy who is kind of supposed to be drunk because we were told he's kind of still hungover in the car, and he's not even acknowledging that maybe he's, imagining some of this. He's not like asking questions to maybe get a hold on himself. Like, what the heck is this? Some kind of loser convention, and then realizing the seriousness of the situation. He doesn't even have himself reviewing if he thinks that being stabbed had been a hallucination that he had from being drunk. And then he woke up and he's like, what the heck is this? So really, for the severity of this situation, there were zero questions being asked about any of it. Dusty and Kylie are then alone in the cage and are talking together. He clocks her as a model because of all of her jewelry and her nice clothes and how attractive he thinks she is. They both test the soundproofness of the cage to see if anyone outside can hear them talking. No one answers. I'd think that it's pretty stupid for captors not to have an ear in there, to allow sounds to get out, but to not get in, because that would allow them to monitor. However, the sound is just completely cut off, apparently. The two of them quip as they worry about whether they're going to die tonight and think about how they can escape the situation. Outside of the box, Chainsaw Cop and Custard bicker over who gets to kill Dusty. That also doesn't really make sense since Chainsaw Cop brought Kylie and Custard brought Dusty. Why are they arguing over Custard's sacrifice when they brought their own sacrifices for this meeting? What are the rules for this meeting, the rules of engagement? They got letters in the mail. There must be other rules of engagement beyond a bring your own sacrifice. Or are they trading sacrifices? Like, why are they bickering over who gets to kill her sacrifice as if it means anything other than, hey, bring blood for the blood goblin of the house? Like, that's what it is too. BT dubs. This whole thing, it says, is to feed the Black Manor the blood of people because it keeps the dimensions between Black Manor and then some sort of limbo connected. And when the house doesn't feed, then that connection severs and it threatens the livelihood of the other dimension, which when the stakes are that high, you would think that there would be more rules of engagement and that there would actually be the person there, like the entity there, overseeing to make sure things worked. And also, why would you bring 4 psychopaths into the same house? It's why it feels like aesthetics. But why would you bring 4 psychopaths into the same house Unless you want them all to kill each other, then okay, whatever. You're just feeding more blood to the blood goblin house. But where are the rules of engagement to make sure what you need to happen happens, because it's a life or death situation for your entire realm? There's not even somebody there to just be like a referee or to kind of calm the flames. You've just got these egotistical people in this house that are going to break all of the rules because they don't really care. And it again makes it very confusing as to like why we're here, why the story was created this way, because you could have just had Custard or this death cop come in, and then you get Honey in here, and it doesn't make any sense for Honey to be in this situation because Honey isn't a psychopath like Custard or Chainsaw Cop. You'll see when we get there with Honey. Unless you want to like put Honey on the same level as them, but I don't think that they really are. It feels like inclusion for inclusion's sake. Anyway, as Chainsaw Cop and Custard bicker, there is no heat behind either of them, since neither is scared of the other's threats or even hesitant about spitting insults out to the other one as they bicker. The two are interrupted by this, quote, Doom Cop snarls like a pissed hog at a firecracker as Crackle brings in a girl wearing a large metallic spiked ball helmet. The spike ball has two slits cut wide enough to see from, but too dark to see her face. She's got tattooed arms with a sleeveless leather vest and a slime green tank on a caramel skin chest. Her bloodied red sneakers squish at the ends of black tights, and metal-studded booty shorts with a blood-splattered fright. Spiked girl holds a large fireman's axe handle around the throat of a girl in a yellow sundress. The choking girl's blue side braid whips past her neck as she's forced into the room from behind with authority. The spike ball girl's a feral dog, thrusting a purebred into submission as her boyish voice echoes out from the metal like yelling in a sewer. This is what you get, dude. You messed with the wrong chick and now you're gonna pay. Hey, what's up, guys? Yo, this place is hella sick. Look at this mansion, dude. Straight money. You want her in a cage or, hey, where'd that bird go? Oh, hey, yo, Crackle. It's cool to just dump her in any cage, dude, or... Now, I wanted to bring this up because you've got blood-splattered dominatrix murderer here saying, you messed with the wrong chick to someone in a sundress, which... Call it stereotyping, but I'm gonna guess sundress girl didn't physically assault spike ball girl. So this is now going with violence is justified against someone who says something that you don't like, or maybe looks in a way that you don't like how they look. Heck, for all we know, she just looked at her the wrong way and spike girl threw a fit. Now, I'm not expecting any of these people to be rational or good in any way. They've obviously introduced themselves as being very sketchy, if not completely amoral, but when you're writing a story like this, you do need to give something for the readers to be interested in, and maybe this is supposed to be enough for the readers to be interested in. Maybe it is enough for some readers to be interested in. I am personally not invested enough to want to read about any of these people because I don't like or care about any of them. They're all constantly talking the exact same way and fighting with each other. And there hasn't been enough sense made within the story already to make me be like, yeah, I want to keep reading this. I keep reading out of sheer determination to finish and then talk about these books. But the thing is, why do I care about any of these over-the-top people who just want to victimize others for no sense given to us? Because even at this point, we don't have the stakes. We don't know why they're here, why they were summoned here, and we don't have to know that early on, but we should have something that kind of drives us forward for the momentum of the story, like what are they trying to do? Something should be introduced fairly early on to give an idea of what we're doing there. And it's especially harder with larger casts. I completely get that because Dead End Drive was a 12-person, main cast, and Westies has a 6-person main cast, but you still have to introduce something in the beginning for like what the character that you're introducing is doing. In this case, it would have been Custard was the focus point, the entry point for the story, since we were with her when it started. And I don't think the story took it slow enough in order to introduce what that character was doing and why they were doing it. And then, bring in the other characters that have the same thing. If you look at like Dead End Drive, which is a dark comedy, which is all, with a large cast, which is why I'm going to associate it with this, is it introduces early on that everybody is gathering together in order to go to the will reading so they can kill each other to try to get the money. Like that gives you an idea of what all of them are doing, except for, Gavin and Anna, who have a bit of a different motive going in, but you still know exactly why everybody is gathered and what the incoming goal is. With this, you don't get an introduction that gives you any idea of what the starting the starting objective is that they can then discover things as they go on. And it just leans on instead having these violent images that feel more like it's trying to look edgy, trying to be something, kind of like dressing up in Hot Topic, but you don't really understand any of the band tees that you're wearing or the TV show tees. So now we've got 3 out of the 4 that were invited. The 4th person invited to this shindig was an effeminate Japanese man in a dress, and he goes by the name of Honey. He sacrificed his dad, who is already in the bag that he has brought. He killed his dad, chopped up his body, and brought him in this bag. And before it's discussed why Honey brought his dad, and why his dad's already in a bag, the blood was not killed in this house, which also kind of breaks the rules of what they needed to happen here. But like, why are we here? Why are we here? We're set up with this thing where you need to kill inside of the house in order to feed the house. And this guy breaks the rule of bringing his victim to kill in the house, already having killed his dad multiple times, by the way, because his dad just keeps coming back. It doesn't work. It's just a bunch of like random things thrown together. And in some cases, it kind of feels like somebody took a bunch of OCs that they had and then put them all together. And then this is like the outcome because they really liked the characters, but it's not a cohesive story to me. Anyway, Crackle, the crow that is kind of communicating with them. I kind of imagine that Crackle is more of a loudspeaker for the guy in hell, limbo, whatever, that is behind all of this. But Crackle is telling them why they've all gathered, and this is the setup for why they're all here. Quote, "The night after New Year's tonight is considered to be the first day of the 13th month, a 1-day-long month, unrecognized by normal society. We utilize this special day for the abyssal harvest. The harvest is celebrated here at Black Manor, where a feast for you all takes place. After the feast, a show of sportsmanship will commence, in which you will all partake in a ritualistic hunt of your victims one by one in an attempt to impress me. Once the hunt is completed, the sacrifice will be offered to the dormant, ancient, eldritch beast, Bloodtaker. After consuming your offerings, Bloodtaker will choose one of you to be given regenerative properties. You will then use your healing abilities to continue population control on Earth, working directly with us to help balance the planet's overpopulation while keeping yourselves alive with your gift." So it's about killing people in order to harvest and keep the population under control. But also I didn't even remember that Bloodtaker is supposed to be an eldritch god. He's just a werewolf, a wolf kind of person. Like, if you look at the cover, kind of right next to the left of the girl with the blue hair, you see kind of a dog-faced guy. That's Bloodtaker. That's supposed to be an eldritch god because he is also, or an eldritch beast, because he is also just like a blue wolf who doesn't have any special powers and is very insecure. And they're not going to hunt any of these. Like, they're not going to do anything to actually even be sportsmanlike. And you would think that that kind of stuff would have been in the letter because Honey shouldn't have killed his dad before bringing him here. And also, Honey isn't a sportsmanlike killer in the same way that Doom Cop is, or Spikehead is, or even Custard is. So these elements don't really fit together, and I don't really understand why this was put together the way that it was. Anyway, they're all praising themselves for how they just might become the Reapers, and that's so fucking metal. So that's basically what they're being told, is that if you win this, you become a Reaper for Bloodtaker. I don't know why Bloodtaker has the ability to make people the Reaper, and also, theoretically, Bloodtaker was supposed to make Steven a Reaper, and instead he's just sitting in limbo as a soul without a body. We'll get there. We'll get there. The whole thing with Bloodtaker and Steven is so bizarre. Once everything is settled, after they've talked to Crackle, the crew of killers continue talking about their circumstances just to exchange information and talk about themselves, mostly for the readers' benefit. Honey says that he killed his dad for being a traditional man with traditional values, which meant that he was a homophobe. This comes about as well because Honey has cuts all over his face courtesy of his dad from when he last fought his dad. I'm always kind of astonished when murder is presented as a lesser evil to someone who has bad opinions and is kind of a huge jerk, but what can I say? That's kind of satirized in Dead End Drive, just FYI. When this was presented to me in this book, I waited to see if it would be presented as part of the farce or if it says more with these presentations. Spoiler alert, it does not. Meanwhile, Doom Cop says that his face is burnt up because every white person in Texas is racist and tried to burn him up. I'm not feeling these generalizations, to be honest. It feels really underdeveloped and more like making a point than a character, especially because this is all just sitting around a table sharing what they have been through rather than showing the story and revealing this as we go. We're still sitting in the first 15% of the novel, in fact. Doom Cop says this is why he nabbed Kylie, quote, "She's a rich white girl who ain't never gonna appreciate shit. Her folks bought her every damn thing that she wants. She don't know what a struggle is. All she care about is looks, fashion, and money. Everything I ain't. She's everything I ain't, and ain't nobody gonna make me feel bad for taking the life of a self-entitled kid who ain't never gonna appreciate it. I worked my ass off for my kids, and what happened? They ran from my burnt ass, and now this kid gonna run too." Then you've got Grave Wrecker, which is the squid ball. You see the blonde chick here with the spike ball head. "So, what's your story, Wrecker? You wear that helmets to keep that big ass mouth in check?" Grave Wrecker knocks on the metal. "You're actually not too far off, yo. That blue hair chick, Dakota. We were cool till some drunk jocks from school showed up and beat my ass. They fed me raw meat, burnt down my trailer. Dakota ran away when shit hit the fan. I started feeling sick after the meat, like a parasite was growing or something, craving flesh. Even my mom started looking at me sideways, and after the fire, we were living in her car. Well, till we weren't. She was stressed and lashed out, and something in me lashed back. These bloody worm-like shits came out of my mouth and ripped my mom to shreds, forced me to eat her. Got those helmets to keep the tentacles at bay. I got the invitation to come here and decide to get revenge on Dakota for abandoning me. Not a good friend, okay? You guys were getting beat up by jocks. What was she supposed to freaking do? And then you kill your mom and go, you know what? I'm going to kill this bitch that also didn't fight against the jocks for me. What was she going to do? I know. The story is also just nonsensical. And maybe if nonsense is your thing, you'll vibe with this. I vibe with the nonsense that is Empress Teresa and Model Land, which are not actually nonsense at all. Friggin' the Eldritch models, the model beasts, bruh. Model Land has a bad rep, but it's actually really good. Anyways, going back to the story, I'm not sure how all of these people even know each other, but they talk to each other with both familiarity and this sense of, I actually don't know you, which is why, like, Doom Cop is like, well, what happened to you? Why do you wear that? But also, it's like, bro, welcome, yo. And so there's no sense of what any of these people's relationships are. And it also gives that sense then that they are OCs that all belong to the writer, but then they all kind of just got plopped in here and they're not really developed as separate things to be in the same story. And they're just asking each other how they were maimed. So it just comes off as explaining the backstory instead of just going through the story. Custard explains that she didn't just pick up a random taxi driver either. Dusty was done specifically. Bro's Dusty. His ex-wife is part of my witch coven. She arranged for me to dispose of him. Dusty cheated on her and then used his connections to ensure that he'd gain full custody of their kids after they divorced. She wants full custody, and that means taking Dusty out of the picture. When I received my invitation to this dinner, the members of the Black Kansas Witch Society discussed who would be my victim. This seemed like the perfect opportunity. Dusty's kids go back to his ex-wife, and I gain her seat in the house as the next high-ranking witch. Okay, thinking forward on this as well, Dusty, 1, doesn't die, 2, marries Kylie, and 3, goes and becomes a movie writer. So it's just like, what? And none of the witches die. Custard just lets him go. So I guess she gives up on being part of the witch society. So like they mention these things, but nothing in here matters. And the more that I read this, the more I'm just like, nothing that they say matters. The story is definitely, personally, comes off like a pantser situation, which is nothing against pantsers because, you know, I write I'm a discovery writer personally as well. I do some planning as I figure it out, but I'm mostly a discovery writer. But this feels like a discovery writing that kind of just went in one direction and then it was never revised and it was never put into place like where the story was actually going and just like one and done. It was once written, edited by somebody and then done, which there are quite a few typos in this that it's worth actually noting because there are a lot of typos. Everybody at the party then starts bickering about how they all believe that the others are being petty and whiny and overly sensitive, which is what caused them to bring their victim, but it doesn't freaking matter because all of them were supposed to bring a victim anyway. The reason why they brought victims doesn't matter. This isn't a slumber party. This is a murder mansion, somebody says. As you might expect of cartoon psychos, they don't really care about anyone and they are just at each other's throats. This gets hard to follow along with, not because the reading is hard, but the entire time everyone has been on screen, it's been bickering and swearing and hate for each other, and it comes from all of them, and it's sustained at the same exact level, and it is hard to read without any changes in the writing and show variation in the characters or the situation. It's like, generally, when you're writing, suggestion, you want to have peaks and valleys. So you have the fast, high tension moments, and then the denouement moments or the quieter moments. So you can have ups and downs. Just like with emotions in general, like if a movie actor is always at 100% the same anger all the way through, it gets tiring. So you got to have up and down. I mean, even in movies like Crank, where Jason Statham is freaking high and has to keep his heart going, it's not all cranked. You do have moments where he is a down, which is then, you know, leveled out by he needs to get it back up. And I'm supposed to get it back up, if you know what I mean, if you've seen that movie. It's not a movie that I would want to watch with other people. Kind of awkward, honestly. We find out that Custard is the one who slept with Dusty when he was cheating on his wife. So she's conniving in order to take over because she's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sleep with this guy who she doesn't even apparently like. She thinks that he's freaking, I don't know. Maybe she thinks that he's like a working class stripper because she was admiring his muscles, but she's also like, I hate men. And yeah, I don't understand this choice. I don't understand this choice at all, other than possibly. And he's acting like he doesn't know her. If she slept with him, I guess she might have changed her appearance. Okay, illusions. But so she slept with him in order to tell the wife that she'll get rid of him so that she can take the seat that the wife currently has, or the ex-wife currently has. It's so convoluted. Okay, I did put it in here that she changed her own face, so he's not going to recognize her. But she's not acting like she has any sort of familiarity in teasing him either. When questioned about how gross it is what Custard did, she goes after the others for killing a naked cop and the other one for going after her friend for ego. Custard just wants to conquer all men or burn them, and she will step on any woman she has to in order to do that. Meanwhile, somehow, Dakota, who is in the Cage of Silence, is listening to all of this and hears and summarizes it. So she's supposedly in this cage where you can't hear anything coming in and out, and yet she is able to hear it. Quote, Gravewrecker glances at Dakota's cage for the first time in a while, an old friend, now a hostage. Dakota calculates. Gravewrecker's only friend is Honey. Honey tries to befriend everyone. Doomcop gets along with no one, and Custard thinks that she is the only one who matters. Things are heating up, and percentage values will change soon based on the fluctuations. But what will be the X factor? What will be the random variable that disrupts the entire equation? What part of this problem is the solution? How does she know this? And how does she know anything about Honey? How does she know anything about any of these people? She can't hear them. Theoretically, as these calculations are going on, Honey's bag starts moving with his father's parts in them. It turns out that Dad is chopped up in the bags and reanimated to haunt him by going, "Why did you kill me?" only to be killed shortly then after. And this is pretty much the cycle that the dad has been going through ever since he was killed. They all now pretend that killing the dad again is sad, even though it was obvious that it was not the first time that it has happened. Gravewrecker leaves the room to go and look for the host of the night and to get rid of the smell of death that is in the room, but somehow she doesn't notice that she's walking straight into a pool, falls into the pool, sinks under her heavy helmet. Honey is determined to help her while Doomcop is throwing a fit and insults again about how he doesn't have to care about anyone else's kids, and Honey calls him uncompassionate and unfatherly. The two of them get into a fight because they are insulting one another about not being kind. Yeah, a bunch of killers who've come here to murder people are arguing with each other about not being kind enough. Weird thing for a couple of psychos to get upset about, but here we are. I don't even know why we're here or what we're doing, because these characters have no motivation. They're just a bickering. And you would think, okay, so everybody has gathered. You've got all of your people. Crackle should be there saying, all right, let the games begin. Set your people out in this area, and the doors are locked, and good luck. Show me your showmanship. But we don't have anything going on. You've just got the captives held. And now friggin' Gravewrecker being such an idiot that she walks into a friggin' pool that she can clearly see. While Custard, and so you got Honey and Doomcop arguing about who is less compassionate. Gravewrecker is drowning in the pool, and Custard has gone in the search for a bathroom. She's upstairs. I'm not sure what we're doing here, quote. Meanwhile, Custard sits quietly on the cold stone-carved snake-mouthed toilet in a snake-themed bathroom, witch hat up, business pants down. down. She closes her eyes, and the brain humming quiet is irksome but meditative. She hears her mind's energy like ocean-filled ears stuck in a low, water-swallowed rumble. She can't hear herself peeing anymore. She's drowning in the quiet on the toilet. She giggles at the silence, quickly regaining her relaxed state. Her heartbeat slows down so still, her blood pumping rattles her bones. She could die peacefully on this toilet and not even care. Custard's lost her subconscious. I've never peed with my eyes closed. It's too relaxing. She is here to conquer all men and step on all women she has to in order to do that. And now she's just sitting on this toilet that's the shape of a snake's mouth, and she's suddenly like, you know what? I could just die and be happy? Where is the motivation? Like, none of these characters have anything that is sustaining them forward, that is going, I want to do this thing. Why are we sitting on a toilet thinking about being happy that we could just die? What are you even doing here? None of these characters have anything that are sustaining them, that are motivating them, that are making them do anything. It is just, and again, it adds to that feeling that it is just OC's original characters hanging out. Where is the plot? Where is the story? From the toilet, she hears Gravewrecker fall into the pool, I guess. I don't know how big this house is, where the pool even is, if it's an indoor pool, an outdoor pool, I don't know. But she uses blood magic on the bathroom wall to save her by teleporting all of the pool's water and its contents into the bathroom, where it just like, and it doesn't ruin anything, by the way. Like, you just get this description of water coming in through the hole, and then obviously Gravewrecker comes in through the hole and then hits the ground. And we never revisit, like, is there water damage to the house? Did the water seep through anything? It doesn't matter. This is after she has disappeared into the nothingness of her mind and had half an existential crisis. Switch to the captives squabbling over the knife that Dusty has that he got from the cab and pushes into Kylie's hands. Now they're trying to kill each other out of anger, so there's no difference between the captives versus the psychos because they're all exactly the same. Custard does a spell and steals the knife from the captives, and then she is sucked into the portal that she created. She is then thrown into the hall with the blackbird Crackle and eats him. That's the host. You just had to describe that it is connected to Bloodtaker, the eldritch beast, should you not be following what it says to do because its boss is literally able to make you immortal. Quote, Crackles shoved into Custard's mouth and swallowed whole. Flaming rainbow oozes bursts from Custard's mouth and nose as she projects ear-shattering howls of liquid gurgling roars. The swamp kitchen river spits hot sizzles of slime and muck around her as she collapses into the dirt, tummy full of magic goop, devouring bird meat. And from eating the bird, a gemstone bursts into her stomach, climbs her body, and implants itself into her forehead as a third eye. Meanwhile, in the dining room, those that are still over there make a show out of Doomcop peeing into the portal that is in the pool, because you've got the portal in the bathroom and the portal in the toilet. So he is peeing into the portal that is in the pool that then goes straight into the toilet because he is too lazy to go upstairs to go to the bathroom. And Gravewrecker wants to watch because she thinks that is super cool. Why is there always this obsession with urine in some of these books? Then you've got Honey and Doomcop insulting each other. Then you've got Honey and Doomcop insulting each other's dicks because why wouldn't they? And then they circle, threaten each other again, and insult each other again, while also making a temporary alliance. Why would they trust any alliance when they've spent the entire time that they've been here at each other's throats? Dakota asserts it's because Doomcop is afraid of Custard, so he wants to pair up with other people that he thinks he might have a chance with. I feel like I'm reading the same thing again and again and again, which made this book, which is actually pretty short, feel really long. There's also this weird interaction and more bickering until Doomcop says to Honey, "What are you doing here? You don't even have a victim." And Honey says, "The night's young." So at least Honey comes off as somebody who was a victim of circumstance, who acted out emotionally because of constant barraging, at least from his parents, which seems different from Doomcop, from Gravewrecker, and from Custard. At least Custard and Doomcop, who both come off as like complete psychos. And then Gravewrecker also comes off as a psycho because she ate human meat and she got infected with some parasite that came through the meat that she ate. I don't know. But Honey is completely different from these other guys. Why was he invited to this house to do a sacrificial thing that was hunting people down, and he didn't even bring somebody that he can kill? Because there's no character here. It's just like the aesthetics. It's the aesthetics of doing something where they all look like different people here, where they all look kind of edgy, but there is nothing behind them as characters. And he shouldn't have even been allowed to continue. Crackle should have punished this guy, because guy shows up without meeting the rules, and the rules say, bring a sacrifice so that you can hunt them down. These characters are not having real conversations to one another, and I don't even know what we're doing here. In the nicest way possible, it's literal nonsense because no one has a reason to be here other than the aforementioned, we're killers who were summoned. For what? Show it. Show it in how they act. Show that you want something. But what is happening? That's also why I think it defaults on bickering. I think when a story and characters don't have motivation, it often comes through that the characters just like do this back and forth, because you should. Most scenes, at least this is what I have experienced, this is what I have heard, what I have learned, what I see, is every scene in your book should do one of two things, and some might do both of them. It should either move the story forward or reveal character information that we haven't been revealed to before. Some cases, and in some cases, they'll do both. But when characters don't have motivation, when a story doesn't have a plot, what are you left with? You're left with characters that just need to talk to each other in order to fill the pages, because there is nothing moving the story forward, because none of them have an actual goal in order to work towards. Because if they were focused on the hunting of the people that they brought, we would actually have action moving forward, because it would be focused on, one, killing their sacrifices in a fun way that would look more sportsman, so that they could impress the Eldritch God, and that would be the Eldritch Beast, and that would be their goals. So then you would see them actually doing something. You would also see them acting like sportsmen against each other, while you then would have the victims talking to each other about how to escape this alive. But because you don't have either of those goals in either of those groups, you just have the victims arguing about killing each other, and you have these psychos arguing about killing each other, and two of them peeing in the same scene, because there's nothing going on. Doomcop claims that the rules don't exist here because he doesn't want to follow them. I guess that means that he doesn't want to be a Grim Reaper, and he doesn't care about the punishment that comes if he fails to follow what the Eldritch Beast said. Again, proving that there are no stakes here, there's no danger here. And because we know that there's nothing that matters here, it's going to be okay for him to do whatever he wants, because nothing is going to disqualify him from the role. Doomcop opens Kylie's cage to kill her, and she goes running and makes an escape with Gravewrecker's help. Once she gets to the front door, the tornado has actually lifted the house off the ground, and she can't leave. Also, she gets sucked out of the door and yeeted into tomorrow. So even though she was at the door, the house is totally fine though, because there's just magic going on. It turns out that the house is now in another dimension, but the only door to Earth is through the front door. If you leave through any other exit of the house, then you don't actually end up in a tornado dimension, you end up in whatever dimension this weird house is in. They badger Honey about why he is there, because they don't believe his reasoning, and he says, well, his dad is cursed to keep coming back and bothering him over disliking his son's life choices, and so Honey is actually trying to break the curse that resurrects his dad, and thought that maybe he would find it here. So then why is he threatening other people? He should be more focused on trying to get rid of whatever the frick is bringing his dad back. Doomcop then decides that he wants to play a board game instead of doing what they have all come to do, which is kill people for the prize of being a Grim Reaper. But no, let's play a board game instead. They need 4 players for this game, and they recruit the sacrificial captive, Dakota. Literally, why? Why is she being brought into this? What are you even doing here, please? Gravewrecker taunts Dakota at this being the very last game that she will ever play. So what makes this an extra struggle is how Doomcop just went on about how he doesn't give a frick about the rules, won't follow the rules, and now he is like, all right, girl, read the rules of this board game. I mean, maybe that could be ironic, but it's really just coming off as nonsensical. So you'll follow the rules of the board game, but not of the death game that is going to make you immortal as a Grim Reaper? One of the rules of the game is that if you quit before it is over, then you're going to get bit by the snake in the bag, because part of this game has a snake in the bag. And when you're answering questions for the game, it's kind of like you move your piece and then you have to answer something. And if you lie, like your hand is in a bag with a poison snake. And if you lie, then the snake knows and is going to bite you and then you die. So that's how that works. It's the truth snake. When they learn about this, Doomcop threatens the others that they need to play. I don't know why Gravewrecker is suddenly afraid of Chainsaw Man when she hadn't been afraid of him up to this point, but now it's enough to scare her into playing this game. It's just a force of hand into the story. In my opinion, that's how it comes off. There is also more pee mentioning, and Gravewrecker pees herself while putting her hand in the bag of snakes. Yes, authors, every time you obsess over urine in weird places, I notice. And I'm asking questions, mentally. I'm not asking them here, but I want to put the thought in the minds of those watching this video about the urine obsession that happens. So part of this game is basically we ask you questions and you have to tell the truth. If you lie, the snake is going to bite you and you don't move forward on the game map. If you tell the truth, there is no bite and you can move your character forward. It is, you've got basically 3 people who are survivors and then 1 person who is a monster, and you're trying to get to the attic first. And so, I feel like if you get bit by the poison snake by lying the first time, then it doesn't matter if your pieces don't move forward, you just die. I don't know the lethality of this snake. How many bites can you take before before you just can't play the game anymore? So if you quit the game, you get bit. If you lie, you get bit. But the outcome of this is that if you get to the attic, you get a wish. Yeah, do you get 3 wishes? I think you get 1 wish if you're a survivor, and you get 3 wishes if you're the monster creature. And so you win the game by, if you're the survivors, you get all 3 of the survivors to the attic first, and if you're the monster, you get to the attic before the 3 survivors do. But say 2 of the survivors get to the attic, the monster gets to the attic, the monster still wins and gets their 3 wishes. So where do these wishes come from? What do they cost? They're just like limitless wishes from nowhere. They just happen, and they know this. So why are you letting a captive in this murder house play this game? And where is the overseer of this other than Crackle? Because Crackle's obviously been eaten. Where is the host to make sure that people actually do what they are brought there to do? There should be the stakes for this of the dying realm if it does not get fed. And theoretically, you would assume that he needs the Grim Reaper job if he's giving somebody the Grim Reaper job. Where is the guy that is managing this? Where is HR? You know it's pretty bad if we're asking about HR. Starting with the game, Gravewrecker is up first and admits that she loved Dakota, and that's why she was mad, like in love with Dakota. Not just loves Dakota as a friend, but in love with Dakota. Dakota probes that, if you love me, then why would you bring me here? To which Gravewrecker won't answer because she's like, I've already answered my question, so fuck off. But Dakota is blushing anyways. This chick is trying to murder you, has been trying to murder you, and you're just like ooh-wooing when she actively wants to murder you. The truth that Honey tells is that if he gets his wish from playing this board game, then he is going to wish that he was born physically a woman. And Doomcop says that he doesn't regret killing the sheriff from where he was at, because he's asked, that's the question he is asked, if he has any regrets. Dakota is asked if she loves Gravewrecker, and she says yes. Why are we at a girls' slumber party right now? This game is just 20 questions between 4 characters so that they can bicker while doing nothing active, and these 2 admitting that they have feelings for one another. Honey gets to the attic and gets to make a wish where he wishes that he was born a girl. He disappears instantly, and they explain that because Honey was born a girl, his entire life was different, and so he didn't end up in this house. Doomcop loses his cool during the game and punches Dakota in the face, but she, who is theoretically a normie of some kind, is completely unfazed by being punched by this giant man in the face. I don't know. It just adds to there's being no stakes. She didn't fall, she didn't fly back, she didn't hit a wall, she didn't scream in pain, she has nothing. She's not even bleeding from this. What is the point? Meanwhile, I particularly, having just written another violent scene in Westies, there was a showdown scene. I like to make characters spit on the characters after they've beaten them because it's just an insult to injury, honestly. Casey does it. Tommy does it. I would put freaking dynamite in their mouth. Let's be real. He kills a couple of people in the first book, and it does not turn into any of that because they're all high action scenes, but still. Anyway, I'm digressing. My bad. Gravewrecker works with Dakota to get her to the end of the game before Doomcop does, because they all hate Doomcop, and obviously Gravewrecker has a thing for Dakota, so she wants Dakota, who is the beast who gets 3 wishes, to win. Gravewrecker also gets to the attic before Dakota does, and Gravewrecker wishes for Dakota to get there first. That's where she uses her wish. That's how Dakota wins. And obviously, I told you there are no restraints on this thing. So Dakota gets the wishes, so Doomcop destroys the board game in rage against the traitors. And because he basically quit the game ahead of time, he lost anyway, who cares? But because he quit the game by destroying it, the snake comes out of the bag and bites him, and I bet you'll never guess where he gets bit. Oh yeah, he gets bit on the dick, because why wouldn't he? The snake also tears his balls apart. So I guess it just went right through his clothing, or did he just have his party stick out the entire time he was hanging out? Like, snake, Doomcop, who is the problem here? Doomcop dies from his wounds, and the girls laugh and talk about how they want to get out of this house. Dakota now has 3 wishes from winning the board game. Dusty is begging to be released, but she doesn't trust him. Dakota and Gravewrecker want to leave together and don't want to leave Dusty behind just because of the guilt of his death would make them both feel bad. Now we're suddenly having bad feelings. But They know that Custard would chase them all down if they wished themselves away from this, so she wants to impress the Blood Taker for the role of immortality. I feel like if she was the only one left in the house, then Bloodtaker would have to award her the prize anyway because nobody else followed the rules and nobody else was there. But who knows what any of the rules are anyway, because none of them seem to matter. Gravewrecker, whose actual name is Peyton, tosses off her helmet and grabs her axe to hunt down Custard, leaving Dakota behind because the only way that they can leave is if they take out Custard because they're pretty sure that Custard will just hunt them down. But that's not without Dakota giving some big speech about how the two of them are perfect for each other and she cares about her and almost ruined their relationship over what happened, but she won't do that ever again. Considering Dakota running away from a violent situation was enough for Peyton to want her girlfriend dead, I'm not sure that this is a good or happy relationship that should even be wished for, but I digress. Now we get the introduction to Stephen Spinebreaker, who is a dude in a sheet with white glasses that hang over the holes from which he sees through. He's a ghost. I don't know why he needs eye holes. He is a friend of Bloodtaker, and when he died, his spirit was left to wander about while his body was consumed. I don't know how he got here. This is like the underworld that I was talking about before, the limbo. It's a bar, and Doomcop is now sitting there in Steven's strip club drinking with him. Though Doomcop died with his dick ripped off, in Limbo, it is recovered and he is definitely fine. It's the first thing that he is checking to make sure that it is still there. So, good thing to know that if your dick is ripped off in real life, it is not ripped off of your soul. Congratulations on this knowledge. The two of them start talking and they both dislike the Black Bird at the manor for being a manipulator. That's Bloodtakers, though, isn't it? And one thing that the Blackbird apparently did is convincing that Steven is a flying skeleton, because Steven was the last Reaper, I guess, that existed. I don't know. Steven then tells Doomcop that he can change things if he believes in them. Now, we are with Peyton hunting Custard in the Black Manor. They are bickering and fighting and insulting each other, mostly focused on trying to do zingers back and forth instead of stabbing a hoe. And I'm so tired of it. This entire book has just been bickering. Eventually, Peyton is killed, and Dakota wishes to be the most powerful witch ever. Peyton, who is the spikeball head girlfriend of Dakota, is reunited with Doomcop in the strip club afterlife, and Doomcop apologizes for what he did in the manor because he, quote, wasn't thinking right. He says that it has been 23 years in the afterlife because time moves differently in the afterlife than it does in the manor, which is also connected to the afterlife and not connected to the real life realm, so I don't really know. But this just feels like a way of saying time passes, and time passing means that change happens when change actually happens from actions happening and then reflecting on the things that you've been through. So him just sitting in a strip club for 23 years, I mean, he might be more sad that he actually died and lost chances at doing whatever it was he wanted to do, but I don't really know. It just wanted to give him a speech to be like, sorry, Peyton, I'm not really a bad guy. I've been here for 23 years, and I changed my mind on the choices that I made. Now the two are shooting the shit with one another. And what is this conversation? Quote, Peyton cracks open a nut to thumping beats. Bad vibes bring bad times, dude. People like to think that they're entitled to being treated with respect. Harsh truth is, everyone treats people like shit so long as there's no consequence attached. Yeah, there's rare cases of nice people, but most only care about themselves. Dexter points at her. Word. You're wise beyond your years, girl. Peyton jokes. Eat your own mom and you'll learn some crap about yourself. How'd you end up with a white family, dude? Dexter's throat laughs. You ain't shy, huh? It's all good. I grew up in a white town, nothing but white folks around. Life gives you lemons. Make lemonade for your white girlfriend. I don't know. Guess you spend time around people enough to give them a chance. Ain't no one you can't fall in love with. He's talking about falling in love with a white chick, doesn't actually answer her question of how did you end up with a white family, unless she means like his girlfriend and his children look more white. But there's not enough here to really know if she means if he was adopted or what. Honestly, though, most of the pages so far feel like the characters are just talking past each other in general and not actually having conversations with one another, and no one is interacting really. They are just saying words at the air. Peyton goes to the bathroom to talk to herself about getting back to Dakota, and people outside of the bathroom are gossiping about her just to make more quips. Back at the house, Dakota and Custard keep fighting and bickering with one another about how evil the other one is, and what love actually is, and how the other will never know true love. Custard loses this battle and is put into a coffin. Dakota wishes that Peyton can't die, and when she comes back, she is immediately doubting Dakota being a good person at all because she is a witch now, and being a witch means she must be evil. Peyton is so flaky on literally everything. Peyton also demands that Dakota use her last wish to put Doomcop back with his family so he is no longer dead. Dakota complies. Then immediately after that, Peyton learns that she is immortal and is like, but I just wanted us to be together and I didn't want the universe to take you from me. This is intertwined with Peyton having a fit because she says Dakota has more power than her and is leaving her vulnerable, which is how this whole can't die thing comes out. So then she is now mad after that, saying, I'll be in danger all of the time because I'm now connected to you and you are super powerful. And also, what happens when you die because I'm immortal and I have to live without you? Fuck you, Dakota. I think you should just cut your losses, honestly, because there is no making Peyton happy. Peyton is an unstable psycho who just wants to be mad. Meanwhile, Bloodtaker appears to Steven Spinebreaker and says, get your stuff. We've got somewhere to be. Yeah, I feel like you probably should have been there forever ago when your guests got there to, greet them. Bloodtaker, who is a blue werewolf-style creature, is now going down the speedway in the Nether, the Black Nether, the Nether Black, whatever it was called. And for some reason, Steven, the ghost guy, is worried and holding on to the sissy bar for dear life when everyone here is already dead, including him. You have no reason to hold on to the sissy bar. They are rushing back to the witch fight that is threatening to destroy Black Manor. This witch fight that has only happened because they were all invited to the house with a magical board game that granted wishes and were not watched for whatever outcome when the outcome actually mattered, making you question what was even the point of any of this. Bloodtaker was the one who set it all up, and now he is worried about Black Manor and the Nether Black disappearing together because there was no blood for the blood god. Bloodtaker explains that the house and the Nether Black exist because they feed souls to it every year, but that's about to die. Maybe he should have thought better about watching the sacrifices and the guests that he brought in. Maybe instead of bringing in 3 to 4 different murderers who all have egos, bring in just like one and then a bunch of people who can be victimized by them. I'm just saying. Apparently, Steven and Bloodtaker have a sordid past because Bloodtaker killed and ate him when they had been friends in real life before this happened. But he says that he ate him for his own good to save him from being fed into the house and his soul disappearing forever. He is like, I just wanted my friend, which is why I ate you so that you could live with me forever. And now they've made up and they're just buds again. Also, this is now happening because Dakota made herself the most powerful witch ever to exist, and that happened because they left a board game that has magical principles that just answer wishes without limit inside of the house that they were all called to, with no supervision over what was going on and no guidance. They had the bird there that was, I'm assuming, like a radio for Bloodtaker, but Bloodtaker was not interacting with any of this. I'm surprised this stuff didn't go belly up sooner, honestly. They didn't even accidentally stumble upon this board game. Freaking Doomcop saw it and was like, I'm gonna do this. And it was just out there in the open. Now, with Steven and Bloodtaker in the car, we also get this nonsensical conversation. Quote, Bloodtaker shifts in the car like a knife in a witch's back. Thanks for coming. Told myself if you stayed in that cabin, I'd eat you before the drive. Steven rattles as they rocket down the alley with too many cats whose faces have too many eyes. That's not as comforting as you might think it is. Bloodtaker laughs. Didn't mean I'd do it. You never thought of fucked up stuff that you're not really gonna do just to get it out of your system? Steven leans into a hard turn, holding his breath. Oh, right, I understand. Like when you think of something bad that you just wouldn't actually do because it goes against your morals. But I suppose if you thought it in your head, it's not completely out of your character. Perhaps a minor fault in your character, blocked by fear of guilt or being caught. Bloodtaker shakes his wolf jaw. You're thinking about it too much, man. It's more of an impulse thing. Like you have a wicked thought and then your pussy conscience says no and cock blocks the fun. So dude starts off by saying that these thoughts are things that you wouldn't actually do. You just think it, and then says that he would do them. He says that it's impulse, but then your conscience stops you. It means that it's not just a thought, but he wants to actually do them, and he is breaking down his morals. Though what's more annoying is that these characters want to pretend that they have any morals at all, but also just be edgelord evils and say that they're not so bad. Either go full evil and who cares, or don't. But don't sit here on the fence being like, well, it's not actually that bad, and I don't actually want to do it, but also I just want to do it and my pussy conscience is stopping me. The two of them have a year-long drive to get from the Nether Black and to reach the Black Manor. Why not have a portal? Why not use a portal? They obviously exist. How powerful is this dude? Wasn't he offering to make the winner of Black Manor more powerful? How is he not more powerful than this? He has to drive a year to get out of freaking Black Manor. Bloodtaker says that he is basically being enslaved by Crackle the bird because he stole the witch's goods to sell, and then he became the thing that fed the souls to Black Manor, which kept them afloat because the dimension that they live in exists because of the soul eating of the Black Manor. But now, Custard has eaten that bird, so does that mean that they have to feed Custard stuff in order to sustain stuff? We're never going to get back around to that, mind you. It doesn't matter. And the disappearance of Crackle, the bird, doesn't even freaking matter. And there's no punishment for Custard having eaten that bird. Before they can go to the manor, they need to get Steve a body, though, because they're going to the technical real realm. And so then in order for him to interact with things, he's going to need a body. He finds some crazy bat-turned-girl in a convenience store. And you can also see her on the cover. She's the blue person right underneath the wolf. So she is like still a bat, but she's a person, but she's a bat. And there's a convenience store on this highway in hell. So a cringy scene goes on of him going into her body and her soul being kicked out of it so that she can just be a ghost in hell doing practical jokes on people because they can't see her, and that's what she wanted, I guess. I don't know. She volunteered for what was going to happen because I guess it's ultimately what she wanted. She doesn't really matter. They just kicked her out of her body. She's happy about it. They move on. But it's also such a bizarre thing because, again, we don't have any grounding for how any of this world works. So we have this person who was a bat in real life, who turned into a human when they died, or a human-esque anthropomorphic character. And then since Steven has no body, like, how did the bat turn into a human and then Steven in the afterlife ended up with nothing? I just don't get it. Later at a hotel, because they stop at a hotel on their way, of course they do, Steven, now known as Rexy, because that was the name that the bat girl gave him as what her name was, and Bloodtaker are flirting, because of course they are. And they say how they would sleep with one another if Bloodtaker wasn't a dog like all men, and if Steven wasn't a man in a woman's body. They talk about dog balls, and Bloodtaker doesn't know how to respond, so he just leaves to have breakfast and finds Steven a razor since he wants a razor to shave his legs, because that's what women do and he is a woman now. Yeah, you'll find that Steven loses his personality, whatever it was, and immediately becomes this ditzy, bimbo, infantilized girl that barely understands English very, very quickly. So I don't know if the exorcism was true or if they're just pretending that it was true and it's Rexy this entire time. Who knows? The more time the two spent together, Rexy/Steven keeps flirting with Bloodtaker, and Bloodtaker is falling for him. Well, he's like, this is crazy. Steven is basically gone and turned into this lobotomized, very naive little girl type person who is saying stuff like, quote, "Will you be in love feelings with me too?" Asking that of him if they save the world, because apparently putting Steven's soul in this girl's body has created a new person altogether. I would have thought that it would be more than just, hey, Steve, you're a man in a chick's body. If they got to romancing each other this quick, it kind of tells me that there were feelings there probably before. And I think that this is trying to say like something about sexuality or appearances or something, but instead I don't really know. It's just really weird, and it has to erase Steven's personality entirely for Bloodtaker to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And he forgets that that is his friend that he killed and ate, and all of the memories and trauma that go along with that too. So it makes me believe that this is not actually Steven, though it keeps saying that it was Steven that was in there. They continue to flirt with one another until they hear Custard scream. How that gets them, I'm not entirely sure. What it's got to do with this scene, I also don't know. It says that Bloodtaker is psychically connected to Crackle, who was eaten by Custard, but that's not coming into the scene at all, and the way that this is written is, quote, Rexy giggles, Custard screams. And it has no segue. Like, that's literally just how it is. Back at the house, Custard is warning if the manor dies, then everything dies, including her wishes. Peyton pushes Dakota to trust Custard so they can deal with this and Bloodtaker when he comes, because they somehow know that he is coming. They weren't even given an introduction to Bloodtaker other than Crackle being like, hey, eldritch beast that'll give you powers. How do they know that he is coming? He hasn't sent an electric mail. He hasn't sent a psychic mail. They just know. The three of them build a house together over the next 3 months. Why not just use magic? I don't know. And now it seems like Custard and Dakota are flirting with one another. So they're a threesome, as we quickly determined. Custard, Dakota, and Peyton now all apparently like each other and are in a throuple together. I think Peyton is also a witch now. You kind of just have to infer because it doesn't really write it out for you. They quip, and again, it's, why don't you just use magic to do the laundry? Quote, because doing laundry is more fun than doing it with magic. Who has ever said that chores are fun? Don't answer that. I know somebody somewhere has been like, chores are my pastime, chores are my safe space. Most people are not. The girls that are in a relationship confirmed, and I don't know when it happened, how they came to like each other when they were pretty sure that Custard was dangerous and gross and they wanted to kill her. It all happened off the page and then just skipped it onto the page. They then flick through channels on TV while having breakfast and see Dusty, the guy from the mansion, on a talk show, sharing that he is working on a movie about his experiences in Black Manor, how there's a girl still stuck up there and he wants to raise awareness to it so they can get her out. How would you even do that? It's a magic house. What are the rules of this place? What are the rules of anything? After the talk show, he's talking to a director named Chaz, who is showing him an edited video of the movie, and he hates all of it. Also to note, he was wished to be sent back to his family, but now he's with Kylie, the girl who had been abducted into the house too. So apparently his whole thing with his wife and kids was a lie. I guess it was the ex-wife. So apparently sending him back to be with his family was a lie. He just got with this chick. How that happened, I also don't know. This guy is like a grubby taxi driver who had a rape kit in the back of his van, and now he is married to this supermodel who survived the fall after getting yeeted by the tornado, though she is in a wheelchair now because we got to do realism here. So at this point, we're just getting a beat by beat retelling of the first 1/3 of the novel that is in the house, that is the setup for the murder party, because Dusty is watching the movie that the director put together, and that is what it is. This book is feeling more and more like a first draft outline as it goes on. We are legitimately just speeding through everything, and it is almost all dialogue. Then we go back to Peyton, Dakota, and Custard, where Dakota and Custard are going on a date while Peyton, with Peyton's blessing as she stays home. Dakota learns Custard's dad was a preacher man, and his church basically burned everything down when they found out that he had a daughter who was a witch, and this includes that they had killed her cat, and this is why she hates men. Meanwhile, despite the fact that her father, defended her, but the church, I guess it was only the men in the church that burned everything down. Meanwhile, Peyton is sitting on her own, and the voice in her head taunts her about how she is being a conformist, and she is also unwanted by the two other women who are on a date without her. That she okayed, mind you. But Peyton at this point is just confirmed crazy and contradictory and gets mad at others about choices that she has made. She's fighting off her mentality, saying that she's not intimidated by the fact that they are off without her because she knows that she matters in this relationship. We return to Steve/Rexy and Bloodtaker. They're doing a tarot card reading, and they're also, surprise, getting married. They visit some demon guy who talks about how hot Rexy is so that she can say that she is happily taken. He then asks if he can purchase Rexy from Bloodtaker, and Bloodtaker is offended. I don't know where any of this is coming from. It's just to, I guess, say how hot she is. They ask this guy for help in defeating the 3 witches who need to be destroyed to save Black Manor. Isn't Dakota the strongest witch ever to exist? I don't know how we're gonna do anything about this. Meanwhile, Peyton is trying to learn magic and turn her skin green. While her girlfriends over there fuss over her, the mentality personality named Spike, who is in her head, is saying how everyone hates her and she is pathetic. Spike has been around for a while now, but just so random, and nothing is explained about this. It is just this voice that she actually just talks to in her head all the time. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything. And Peyton had enough going on with the squid. Maybe Spike is the worm. I don't know. Because she does have the worms, though the worm skull thing never comes up again. So I don't know what happened to the worm skull. She's not wearing a Spike helmet anymore. So I guess the whatever cursed flesh she ate is now gone. We return to Rexy and the Bloodtaker. The demon turned himself into a vacuum. Yes, a vacuum cleaner. And they're going to use that for dominance. And it is, of course, taunting because you can't get through a couple of pages of this book without characters insulting each other even when they're on the same team. I'm reading this and feeling like I'm having an aneurysm. Quote, blood shifts. Scribe, you play nice with my wife or I'ma use your face to suck the fur out of these seats. Rexy pushes random buttons on Scribe. This is a neato time having a talking vacuum cleaner, friend. I'm going to not do a bat-banging vacuum cleaning for this time, though, thank you. We will be calling you not as Scribe. You are now Soul Sucker. Do you like the naming? I told you, is this not Steve or is this actually just Rexy? And I feel like Rexy had better language than Steve does in this Stexy, whatever. Because I don't think it's the same person, but I don't understand why he devolves to such an extent that he did, and why Bloodtaker isn't a little bit worried about it unless he wanted to lobotomize Steve so that Steve couldn't be mad at him anymore for getting him killed. BT dubs, the reason why he'd be called Soul Sucker is because he's a vacuum cleaner that is meant to suck souls. So that's it. Rexy makes up a childish song because she's infantilized and it's creepy as heck. Soul Sucker is also jealous of Rexy and Bloodtaker's relationship and how much they love each other, implying, he implies that he is now stuck as a vacuum cleaner, even though he is the one who turned himself into a vacuum cleaner for this job. So does he not have control over his own abilities? And he's also complaining that no one has ever showed him how to love in between all of this random he banging anything that he can get his dick into, because that's what he's been implying this entire time, is this he's been hedonistic because nobody ever taught him how to love. I don't care. I really don't care. Why should I be invested in this character who means absolutely nothing? And why are we trying to force sentimentality on characters who don't mean anything? Also, there's more of this, quote, Rexy holds out a high five. It is a silly remark for saying the sorry for being the true you. I do not find a wrong feeling that you have a sexual energy supply. Just aim for a lover to barrage their brain with the romantic words and they will be awaiting at the love kingdom for the sexorcism. What are we doing? Who is this? This is not Steve. Why did we even bother with Steve? You just completely erased a character for another character, and neither of them mattered. Well, you erased two characters, and none of them mattered. Meanwhile, Peyton is comforted by Dakota being special and needed as Peyton tells everyone Bloodtaker is on the way. Despite knowing this, they're just watching movies and talking about the impending arrival of Bloodtaker to fight them, because no big deal, I guess. Somehow, they also know that Bloodtaker has a wife despite not actually interacting. Are they just using psychic abilities? Is this because Custard had eaten Crackle and so now they have a connection to Bloodtaker? I don't know. They just know all of these things all of a sudden. And it feels to me like the author didn't realize that they were inserting necessarily information that they knew that these characters may not know, had no reason to know. And then if they did have a reason to know, it hadn't been explained. So again, it feels very novice for writing. They're also digging up dino bones in their backyard for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. They're just wasting time waiting for Bloodtaker to show up and they got nothing better to do while they wait for this battle of all battles. When Bloodtaker gets there, the battle starts, but not without Bloodtaker saying, quote, Go tell your loved ones that you love them before I kill you. They deserve to know. Aren't they all going to die? Isn't he there to kill all of the witches? So, why does it matter? And what kind of shenanigans is this? Is this not serious business about the death of a realm? About, the Black Nether and the Black Manor? This is something that really affects the tension of the story. When it shows that there is no consequence or die or anything to any of the characters, and then it makes all of the actions meaningless. It then makes all of the actions meaningless. Why is anybody worried about this? They can take all of the time in the world, it doesn't matter. In order to win the battle, Peyton gives up her body In order to win the battle against Bloodtaker, Peyton gives up her body to the other personality inside of her, Spike, and she rants, quote, Crack. Custard backhands Peyton's jaw, exploding her through the window as she ragdolls to a stop on the driveway, her body ripping across rocks sprinkled with glass. Peyton lies in a dust cloud in front of the blue classic, feeling her pain starts to form. She listens to thrashing in the creek out back and fire toasting furniture inside, chaos playing hectic melodies to the calm hum of void clouds. Peyton closes her eyes. Spike! Yes, Peyton. You were a good friend. I'm not your friend, Peyton. That's messed up, yo. I'm lying here in the driveway dying. You're not dying. Stop being dramatic. I am your potential. I have potential? I have every slur aimed your way. I hate name-calling. I am every bully who's stained your consciousness. I hate that others have messed up my head. I am the fierce, undying nature of a violated psyche who's seen enough. I'm so tired. I am at a breaking point of the pure soul soaked in the stink of hate. Why can't people be nice? I am the lashings, torn skin of the innocent people. Be nice or get wrecked. I am the abused emotions of a weaker person. I am not weak. I am terror, brought to the guilty for their crimes. Mess them up. I am dormant tenacity, stagnant and buried, waiting to rise. save my family. I do hereby state that Peyton Sarah Sweet Jelly has been wronged by the universe. Impart her with the necessary evils. Avert your gaze from her tonight, and judge not her actions as they are justice. Show your mercy to her as she punishes those who have done wrong. Grant her favor from the universe. Mind you, this entire thing is one paragraph, and you've got the two voices going back and forth, but it is literally one paragraph, which also makes it harder to read. And also, isn't freaking Dakota the strongest witch ever, but it just takes Peyton's alternate personality caused by friggin' people being mean in the world to beat Bloodtaker and end all of the wars with this guy? So Bloodtaker is pounding Dakota into the ground when he learns or realizes, or it actually happens, that Crackle is dead. I thought Crackle died a while ago because Custer ate it. Since Crackle is dead, Bloodtaker literally just stops and starts smoking because he didn't actually want to kill her. He just did it because it was a requirement for the soul feeding and because he was a slave to Crackle / the witch that used to own Crackle. I don't know. There's a sort of flashback of Dakota watching herself placing the wish-granting board game into the house that is sort of like a parallel universe / time travel, because she is watching herself do it and then congratulating herself on being the most powerful witch ever. And it is just this time warp that because she is the most powerful witch ever, then she is able to go back in time and put the board game there. But that doesn't really work because she becomes the most powerful witch by playing the board game. So, like, no, this wormhole doesn't work. This alternate universe doesn't work. And, I mean, did it just feel like it needed to explain how that game was there? That Dakota set it up the entire time? I feel like it's trying to reach for answers that don't make any sense. After talking to her parallel universe self, she is returned to the current time where Wolfhead Bloodtaker is crying over dead Rexy. Bloodtaker wants to die because Rexy is dead, but Dakota won't kill him. He is begging her to kill him because he's like, I don't have any reason to live anymore. And she's like, well, I am not going to kill you. He just wants to rejoin her soul and won't get there if he kills himself, he says, because he'll get sent somewhere else if he kills himself. You'd think that if he found Rexy's soul, he'd just find Steve, since that's who was in there, right? It's not like he became a different person, right? Or is Steve's soul that was inhabiting Rexy's body now just Rexy and Steve is literally erased and gone? Or did Steve never exist? I don't know. The whole thing with Steve and Rexy is bizarre and it doesn't make any sense. Bloodtaker buries the body on the property while being given support by the witch because they're all friends now. Somehow he's reunited with her and starts an exorcising service. I mean, we get a where are they now kind of thing at the end. I don't know if he hired them because of what happened to Steve or where the original Rexy went, but they're reunited. Who knows? But that's pretty much the end. Dusty is married to Kylie. Who cares? Genre. The audience. It's a messy, horror motifed romance kind of thing. Supernatural. I wouldn't actually even say, no, it's not horror motif. It's supernatural, edgy TM. It's not, nothing in this is actually horror. It doesn't have horror aesthetics even. It just has like blood and guts and mayhem and appearances. It's very Adult Swim style. It's very crude and somewhat juvenile, probably a little bit more than somewhat. And it feels like it wants to be a visual medium more than a book because it has pretty much zero description and it's just dialogue outside of saying how the characters look when they first appear. Hook. I can't even tell you much about the hook. It says, multiple serial killers are brought to this mansion with their own sacrifices to partake in some power game that would give them supernatural powers. How these people were chosen, we don't know. How they knew the host, we don't know. How they knew each other, we don't know. Where they come from, we don't know. They put their victims in a soundless cage and proceed to fight each other over petty squabbles. There's no real drive to the storyline going on. It's just cartoonish bickering with each other. And I can't help that it's because it has no idea of what it is doing or where the story is going or what these characters even want and how to get there in that situation that it's actually honest in its hook and that there is no hook. There is no drive. There is no story. And it makes that very clear. And when it happens that a story has none of that, it becomes more obvious because the characters are just wasting time on a page and you don't see characters interacting. You see characters talking past each other. You see characters constantly fighting each other to no outcome and basically having the same fights over and over and over again, which is what we see here. So at 18% of the way in, we had nothing but characters who were talking the same, bickering, wanting to kill each other for no reason but ego, and then going straight onto swearing. It It wasn't promising of a story, but it was promising of the mess that would come where nothing mattered. Language/writing. It was just crude and immature, lots of swearing, lots of talk of balls and shit and petty stuff. Bizarre descriptions like raccoon puke mouth, fleshy eyes, and the bag of bubbles out creepy context, whatever that means. The way descriptions are used in this is to tell you how to feel or how the characters feel rather than showing you in the text, as everything is over the top in a way that depersons every last character. There is nothing human about any of them, which to me means that there is little to invest in as characters. And that's not to say that your characters have to be human. They can have human-like qualities, like some sort of emotion or drive, survival instinct even, to make you care, but there's not even that. The formatting is also off, which makes it hard to read at times, where it'll have like dialogue on the same line as somebody else's actions, or dialogue that is continuing from someone else on a new line, which gives the impression that it is someone else. Or like I said, with the Peyton monologue, it's all just one giant paragraph. Description/writing. Too much repetition of blood and guts and death all at the same time, when it only needs to be said once to get the thing across. When it's said multiple times, it gets rid of the feeling of disgust or the vibe of the macabre, and turns into just trying too hard. Here's an example. Quote, "The knife jammed so deep, Custard's arm lost, tangled in warm guts. Dusty slouched down at her arm, now halfway in his stomach, a blood-flooded shirt up to red, speckled witch. I told you I'd get what I want." Custard smiles as Dusty slumps backward off her knife, slamming into a blood-mixed puddle of bubbling death. His nose filled with muddy, bloody liquid as he drowns, fading into blackness, no longer feeling the rain. He's dead on the road. Custard steps on his hat. A small, empowered witch. Blackout with your guts out, Dusty. The narrative voice is constantly changing, being close third, but changing who it is inspired by from sentence to sentence and paragraph to paragraph based on who's got the stinger that can be said about who. And this is something that made me think of my early drafts of Dead and Drive, because that's what I did before my instructor, my mentor, was like, hey, you're losing sense of personality, of character, strength of character, consistency of character in order to make these zingers, which is making all of them sound exactly the same and giving the readers no break on the causticness of the characters. And it's not fulfilling. And I feel like that's something easier to see when somebody else does it, which is one reason why I think it's very good for writers to annotate, to critique, to read, to study, because sometimes it can be really hard to see the feedback that you get in your own work because you're so familiar with it. But once you receive that feedback and then you read something else and then you see that feedback work for somebody else's work, then you start to realize how it works, how it would fit in your work. So this just got rid of all of the characters in order to make them all bigger exactly the same. And that's even pointed out by the fact that the victims all bicker about killing each other the same way that the psychopaths bicker about killing each other. And they all just, it's the same. I think the descriptions in this really also suggest it badly wishes that it was a visual medium to show the contrast in the characters, because that's also what this has going for it the most, is the difference in the visual designs. And because the author is also an artist, it feels like it is very visually driven, but it just didn't use any of the benefits of writing in a literary context. Aside from the constant head hopping, it also switches between names like Wrecker and Grave Wrecker, Blood and Blood Taker, Steve and Rexy and Flimsy. Many typos throughout, with missing words and things like, but I am locked down in happily marriage, enough that it is notable to mention, and again adds to the sloppy feeling of the work. Though that lockdown in happily marriage might just be Rexy's speech impediment or whatever it is, because of the way that she talks is so different. World building. We clearly have magic, but we have no sense of what is normal in this world. Between all of the extreme violence, the magic that doesn't show any restraints, and the lack of description, it just is YOLO, and suddenly people are teleporting except when they're not, and bodies are reanimating, and they're acting like that's weird and scary or different, and then they're also passive about it. There's just no grounding here to know what is normal for any of these characters and how normal magic is considered for anybody. I mean, even with Dusty going on the TV show and theoretically talking about magic, nobody bats an eye. So is that just normal? It reminds me a little bit of Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, where the rules are kind of whatever, it really doesn't matter. This doesn't mean that TV shows and comics don't have rules, but the way that you would describe or show world building in different mediums is actually different and requires different skills or different techniques. Characters. There's a lack of emotional range in all of the characters. The only difference seems to be how they look, as they all talk the same, to the point that high model Kylie goes, "Can you motherfuckers hear us?" just like Dusty does in the same exact way. Really, all of the characters have the same voice and no personality for them. They are all mean. They are all destructive. The most diverse thing about them is their appearance, which is unfortunate. It's only made worse by being a large cast, which, you know, considering that I also did a book that was about killers at a murder party for my first novel and had a large cast, I know it is not an easy task, but it is made easier by determining archetypes for your characters and allowing them to stick to those rather than making their differences be appearances and mild differences in talking, like with Peyton, who goes, "Yo, dude, that's messed up." And the way that Rexy talks, which is infantilized and kind of like Starfire, but worse. This book also almost feels like entering a VR chat room where everyone is just wearing random outfits so they can act nuts to roleplay. I think this novel would have benefited from picking a perspective or two of characters for this novel to focus on, but especially one at least, and probably Dakota, since she was the one rationalizing the situation. This would have allowed the narrative and the plot to be focused on how do we survive, and would introduce the readers to what is happening through Dakota's learning what is happening as it goes on. We'll also be following her with Will They Get Out, and she would have been more sympathetic in some way, because she was a victim as opposed to a killer. Not that you can't have a killer be sympathetic or interesting, it's just a different task, which I think this could have done that as well, but it needed to focus, and it needed to focus on something. And it could have even been like one side on the killer and one on the non-killer, or just switched chapter by chapter, but there wasn't any consistency in this. Much of the characters here feel like they were placed from somewhere else. Not like they were stolen or anything, but more like they were from multiple projects or possibly OCs from over time that kind of just got pushed together to make a project with them all in it because they are so beloved by their creator. That's the vibe that I got. Plot. The plot appears to be 4 killers were invited to the Black Manor with victims in order to feed the house the souls of their dead, because that's what kept Black Manor and the Nether Black, some version of hell or limbo, alive. However, the antisocial bunch bicker and fight with each other until they find a board game that grants wishes, at which point they fight some more, and some of them get their wishes granted, including Honey, who wishes he was born a woman and just disappears, and Dakota, who wishes to be the most powerful witch ever. With everyone gone except for Peyton, Dakota, and Custard living in the Black Manor, then the Manor and the Nether are both at risk of not being fed souls because they didn't follow the instructions. So now Bloodtaker, the one who manages the property, the one who is supposed to be making sure this stuff exists, who apparently doesn't have his life tied to whether, the Nether dies or not, despite this being his duty, he decides that he needs to go to the property to make sure that the house is being fed, even though it is a year-long drive out to get there. What the frick is he doing inviting these strangers into the house and not being there to greet them? He also gets married to his friend that he killed, but put the soul into a woman's body and basically lobotomized his friend into this other chick. So Steve doesn't exist anymore. He's just a bimbo that is lusted over by Bloodtaker. This ends with a big battle with the witches that actually ends with nothing because Crackle is dead and Bloodtaker has no reason to fight them if Crackle is dead. So nobody does anything to get to the ending. It literally just happens and they give up and have a smoke. That's theoretically what it looks like, but there is so much lack of direction in this entire novel. The characters don't act with purpose, including Bloodtaker, who, if his job was serious, then he would have been at the house making sure things happened as they needed. Ultimately, the story reads more like fan fiction of the characters just hanging out and falling in love with the thinnest plot imaginable. Overall, one thing that I'm kind of tired of reading in books, and we'll see this in the last couple of reviews that I have done and probably going forward, because while the book I'm reading right now is fine, so far there's a very huge lack of emotion in general, and a character having a sentence where they break down sobbing. One thing that I'm constantly tired of reading is a lack of interaction to the circumstances of any scene. Both this book and Nick Cutter's book, and even of Silk and Death, which will be coming next time I do a book review, all show a lack of character reaction, a lack of fear in a terrible situation, a lack of emotional response for any of the non-psychopathic characters, and even a lack of interaction between characters who are supposed to be related. We don't have Dakota freaking out because Peyton is trying to kill her after they ran off. We don't see her having any anger. She immediately just falls in love with her again, which just goes to tell the reader not to worry about anything. It doesn't matter. Nothing in this story has stakes. Choices don't matter. It is just going to go wherever the author's hands make it go. It makes a lightness of everything, including the threat that should be held over the characters' heads, but when even the normies fear nothing, there is little to differentiate them from the bad guys, and there is also no fear and no emotional reaction from the reader. It may be doing this on purpose for the sake of the comedy side of this, but then it takes heavily away from the death and the horror and the tension that is supposed to be the climax of the novel. The work also feels very, very, very early on in the writer's career or practice, to the point that it's just getting stuff down, but it's not organized in any way. There is no reason for being other than maybe the idea of this seems cool and edgy, and don't get me wrong, rule of cool can work. You can definitely do stuff as rule of cool, but there is no plot, no character, and there's nothing to sustain it through the rule of cool. So it's just the same people bickering the entire time, and in a climax that resolves itself without them doing anything. There's no drive, there's no anything, and it comes off as a first draft. The idea of this novel is not hopeless, but to me it feels unprepared and too unformed to be presented to outside eyes for money in the state that it is in. But that's just my opinion of it. Let me know your thoughts. Have you read this book? Will you read this book? Check out the sample, at least, from the link down in the description below. Looking forward to the conversation. With that said, have a great weekend, and don't die.
To my children, Tommy, Ike, and Annabelle, if you forget everything else I ever said in the lifetime we shared together, I need you to remember 3 things. 1. Minimize violence done to and by women. As givers of life, it's against their nature, God's design, to do harm, and every act of violence done to them is meant to break their souls, turning what should be a giver of hope into a black widow. A woman who destroys the life and the mercy of her care for no other reason but the corruption of her own self. It is only when you come across these kinds of women that you should put them down, for they are no better than the men who tarnished them. However, take no glee in what must be done. Finding any life so far gone, a black hole is where someone's heart should be, leaves only one solution: the mercy of death, and it's a tragedy when it happens. Make no mistake, a woman's love is the most powerful thing on this earth. It can start wars, end them, and change the devil himself into someone God sees worthy of giving a second chance. She don't owe this love to anyone, but she do carry it around with her so long as she's living. That is why the devil will do everything he can to pervert women's nature and destroy their innocence. Of every crime you can commit during your lifetime, be it out of daring or necessity, for every defiance you may act out against God, government, or man, avoid harming the innocent. For the day that we become bloodthirsty beasts where love don't exist anymore is the day hell on earth has come. And as bad as it may seem at times nowadays, we ain't there yet. 2. Everything you do in your life will create consequences, both seen and unseen, extending further than you can imagine. Nothing you do exists solely within your arm's reach. Think about every decision you make, every action you take, because you won't know how long your choices will stalk you, be them destructions or blessings, rumors or history been made. The truth of the matter is, your life will be controlled not by the truth of what you done, but by the way others carry on about you. And the thoughts of others are more real in the long term than what you know to be true. It won't stop affecting you just because it ain't real, and no matter the life you've lived, most men can't outrun what's written in them in ink. It ain't hopeless though. Be firm in knowing who you are outside of the noise, and live beyond the means of the news of the day. 3. There ain't anything stronger than a family you build for yourself. What you put together is worth fighting for. Protect your loved ones with your life, and they'll give theirs in return. Family ain't defined by blood, understand that. And for as strong as the bonds of your family are, know that you'll find just as much passion in the people who hate you. While you'll risk your life for those you care about, those who find your existence to be an insult to theirs will risk themselves to put an end to their affliction. As cruel as it may seem, a man who hates you will stop at nothing until one of you is dead. It's a mistake to believe anything different. Don't let you be the ones taken from, be it by outlaw lawmen or by someone in between. The only one who'll be looking out for you is you and your kin. Maybe there's another way to be, but in all my years I've seen the worst of man, I ain't found another way around man's desire to conquer against all else. There ain't a changing of that mind, and sometimes I believe there ain't the ability for man to change at all, least of all through lead or legislation. I ain't claiming to be right about nothing. On many things, I don't want to be right, but what I do want is for my kids to live a better life than the one I did and avoid the mistakes that I made while finding the truth and purpose in what matter more than gold in this country. It's my hope that by sharing the things I learned that my kids will be better than their old man ever was, and that what I done isn't what people remember me for, but who y'all are going to become. That'll be the legend of Bill Cassidy.